I have been building for a long time. It's something that I wrote about in a chapter of a book many years ago. And that chapter was the combination of probably 10 or 15 years worth of thinking up until that date. And then I wrote it in the chapter, and that unfortunately, the computing power around that time was not capable of doing what I wanted computers to be able to help humans with. And that's the kind of central component of this point, is the reversal of how technology at the moment, which uses humans for batteries and our data for for the gasoline essentially, how that could be reversed, and how we can use technology to live a more fulfilled life, but also in a way that's sovereign to us. And sovereign is a key point of what I think ethical technology needs to respect. And I mean sovereign in terms of the owner, controller, ruler of you, who is the arbiter of your information, and to look at it from a less kind of abstract viewpoint. I see sovereignty in three different contexts. I see sovereignty in terms of how we relate to our own identity, which is the intra-personal context. And that includes the way that we see ourselves, the way that we show up in the world, the way that we process information against our own tendencies and behaviors and heuristics and biases. And then we have the interpersonal context, which is, in sovereignty terms, how much we share of ourselves with other people when we're relating to other people and communicating, how much we want to hide, how much we want to modify, or how much we want to retain information that isn't necessarily due for the other person in an interpersonal context. And then finally, we have the extra personal context of sovereignty, which is us and the world interacting. How and where is our information used, and for what purpose, and who's in control of that? So if you think about those three contexts of intrapersonal, ourselves, interpersonal, each other, and then extrapersonal, our interface with the world, you could ask two primary questions. One is, where is my data stored? Where is my data kept? Different versions of that same question is, where is my information held? Where is my private information stored? Any version of that. So the first question is where? Structurally, where is my stuff? And the second question is, who controls it? And the sub question of that is, and for why? For what purpose? What is the ambition of controlling my information if it isn't under my control? Now, those two questions, where's my stuff and who controls it, is seemingly simple. Interestingly, you would think that everyone would repel anything that produced an answer which is, where is my information? I don't know, stroke, I don't care. And who controls it? I don't know and I don't care. That would be bizarre, right? But the truth is that that's the scenario in which many people are still within. If we viewed our own personal information and our identity as a physical person in our family, then the nature of abuse that's happening, which is not dissimilar from someone in your family being hijacked and then brought into a separate place where we can't access and then sold to the highest bidder, we'd find it absolutely abhorrent. But because it's not a physical person, because it's a virtual, a kind of a vaporware type construct of identity and personal information, which is not necessarily tangible to touch and feel, we don't seem to have the same view. However, I do. And my view is we should have sovereignty over our information. And when information is used to touch the outside world in the internet or any other construct, We should still retain sovereignty over our information. And that information can be used in an anonymous way and then fed back to us, de anonymized through our own filters, the F part of self, to reply to our query, our request, our seeking of knowledge and insight in a way that at no time has left our control. People can open the beta of self and immediately treat it as an AI assistant. They'll ask, can you remind me about a meeting tomorrow? Or can you put in a note into my diary? Or can you, whatever, tell me the time? And it's understandable, a shame, but understandable that because of the way that the world of technology is, we're now basically just looking for the quickest fix of what's in it for me, and we'll go on, do this, to commit this task, which to me is like setting up a relationship with someone that you've just met, and the first thing you do is you say, tell me where I should go on holiday. And the person you're opposite goes, I don't know, what kind of stuff are you into? And you go, no, just tell me. Whereas what normally a relationship would be is you get to know one another and you tell the other person preferences and stuff, and you go, I really, really always wanted to learn to ski, and my wife is really into like experiencing the snow properly, and therefore, and then the other person could go, if you asked where you go on holiday, the other person could say, well, listen, there's this really nice place in the Alps that I went to, and I think you might really dig it, and your wife will love it. It's almost guaranteed snow at these times of year. That's a relationship, right? So sure, you can ask self to summarize an 800-word letter that you're thinking of writing into something that sounds way more positive than negative. Awesome. I mean, you can do that with loads of different tools today. Sure, you can say to self, I'm thinking of flying to Miami. What's the cheapest airport to fly from, or what's the best airport to fly from in England? You can do that. I mean, you could equally do that with almost any other platform. But the way to use self is to actually is to teach self bits about you, to educate self about you, about your life, about the people that matter, the important moments that are coming up, the dates that are significant, the preferences that you have, in the same way as you develop a relationship with a real human, right? Then how you use self as an ad-free search engine, or as an artificial intelligence chatbot, then how you use self is profound. Because firstly, bearing in mind it's only your information and you're in control of your own information and no one else gets access to it. And secondly, you're not training with your personal info some form of external language model. But the major advantage of these systems having persistent memory that's owned by you, it's your digital self, means that you have a search engine plus, you have an AI platform plus. And yes, self is early. We're in beta. It's day 2. And unfortunately, the way that we tend to interact with new technology is to assume that all new technology is the same as the existing technology. So someone else comes up with a platform that feels a bit like an assistant, and you go, oh, it must be exactly the same as this assistant. But when you create a new category, the way that I think people will get this the most is after a few days. It's like a delayed onset situation. You use self for like the first hour, the first 2 hours. It's like, okay, it's basically like another digital platform that you can ask things of. And then you spin forward 48 hours when you've loaded in all of your family's preferences, and then ask self to generate a shopping list for Christmas. That you realize that by asking that and self helping you with that based on all of the preferences of all of the family members, you have saved yourself dozens of open browser tabs and cross-matching and basically doing all of the things that paradoxically a lot of systems could do today if it weren't the fact that the business model involves you being the battery, not you being the master. So that's, I think, when self kind of will kick in terms of how people understand the profound nature of what's happened here. The new category of technology is something that won't be reversible once people have started to realize that the power of that, their power in that, is something they cannot get anywhere easily. And interestingly enough, self is just one part of a much bigger vehicle. Self is actually becoming your constant identity, your sovereign data passport for a future network called Entirety, layer one, completely decentralized blockchain with something called proof of AI as the consensus mechanism. And self is the identity module inside there. And the preference part, the filters of self, are the mechanism that enables the consensus mechanism to run, but also enables every single application that Entirety touches, whether it's decentralized physical infrastructure, DePIN, or whether it's smart metering, or any other type of things that Entirety weds itself to and touches as an interface. Self is the translation mechanism to that, because system effective lifestyle filters is the upgrade of how the internet can be interfaced with. If you do want to go to self.app, you can check out what I'm talking about. And I really appreciate you spending time learning a bit more about it. And I'll see you on the next episode of Ethics TV. Cheers.